Welcome to the Creative Ascension Podcast. If you're looking for a space to fit in, this ain't it. This is a space for the ones who were never meant to. You know who you are, the rebel light leaders, the artists, the conscious parents, the soul-led entrepreneurs, and the unnicheable modern mystics. The ones who feel it in their bones that there's another way to live, lead, and create. Here, leadership isn't a strategy, it is embodied. Creativity is not a skill, it's your life force, and your life itself becomes art. This is where we break from conformity and really return to sovereign self-expression, where business is an ascension pathway. The body becomes the anchor, and your creative power becomes that thing that sets you free. The Creative Ascension Podcast explores embodied leadership, spiritual entrepreneurship, and conscious creation for the visionary leaders building the new earth. Each week, we dive into raw, real, and activating conversations with the ones who are walking it. The artists, the builders, the disruptors, the cosmic architects of the new paradigm. The ones like you who are choosing truth over approval, freedom over safety, and expression over perfection. I'm Debbie Lim Creative, visual alchemist, new earth artist, and this is your reminder, your body is the canvas, your frequency is the paintbrush, and your life is the masterpiece waiting to be lived. Welcome to Creative Ascension. So it is my absolute pleasure to introduce our very first guest on this podcast, which has been birthing for 2 years, my brand new soul sister, the Miracle Oracle herself, Odree Martin. It is such a joy to have you here. This is our first time connecting, and I love the magic already because it's one of those things where I only met you in an online space, but I could actually hear your voice as if you were speaking to me directly. So I'd love to tap into that more. I was reading your story and I'm like, I'm sure this conversation is going to go in a really interesting direction, and I just can't wait to hear your story. And then of course there was a dream about you. I'm pretty sure we were in a forest with some drums. I'm looking up at my drum when you mentioned that these collaborations and connections often happen when we come to each other on that other plane. I love following those soul nudges and just trusting that. So beautiful. Odree Martin, the Miracle Oracle, is a sacred advisor for the minority of the 1%, the gifted women, spiritual entrepreneurs, and founders of new worlds. Her transmissions are raw, poetic, and catalytic. I love that word. Designed to activate soul technologies and open acceleration portals of elevation. Through her mentorship, leaders reclaim their deepest desires and transcend the linear matrix, embodying the full range of their leadership. Yeah, it's just so amazing to have you here. So tell us a little bit about you, where you are in the world. What is your medicine for the world? How did this come to be? I absolutely love hearing people's origin stories and the way that we are activated through life into our gifts, usually through the most unexpected, unforeseen, and often unpleasant or challenging circumstances. And they are truly what forge us into the incredible leaders that we become. So welcome. Tell us all about you.
Thank you for this invitation to tell the story. It's even hard to know where to start, but I think I know what's the right connection point here. So I was a pretty ordinary person until 2024. But before that, I was just a healthcare professional working from 9 to 5 until I had my first daughter. And when I had my daughter, it was in the middle of the pandemic, and I got some signs that things were going to be complicated. But I also had trust that the medical healthcare system would support me throughout, and we would find solutions. So it started with really complicated intolerance as a baby. Like my daughter was only 3 weeks old when I had to show up to the ER because she was literally pooping blood all the time. She had hemorrhages hemorrhagic diarrheas all the time. So I'm sorry for the vocabulary, but that was the truth there. And it took 6 months before we could actually figure out what to do, like how I can breastfeed her without her being hurt. So I had to go through this like eviction diet. So this was the first sign that she might be a starseed, but not only that she might be a starseed, it's like whatever food is available here on Earth was not compatible with her digestive system. So after that, we found a way to reincorporate, like as she was growing up, we reincorporated food, and she seemed to be okay until when she hit 18 months. And I was told by a nurse that it seems like she's not communicating. And because she was my first daughter, I just honestly felt we were communicating. But then when I started comparing with other children, I realized that indeed she was not really speaking at all as compared to other children her age. And not only that, but like she was not having like the prerequisites of communication, like if you think eye contact or like like categorizing or those little things that when you look at a child, they seem like they are starting to communicate, like pointing at things. She was not doing that. She was not doing any of this. So then I realized we were communicating telepathically. But for me, it was just like the way you interact with a baby who's not yet speaking. And afterwards, as she grew up, I realized she is autistic. And for now, she's not speaking. She's still not speaking, and she's approaching age 5. So this has been like a major challenge in my life because the current systems that are in place in the society where I live are not inclusive of such a child. So we were rejected many, many times by daycares. I was a 9 to 5 healthcare professional, so I had to, bring her somewhere so I can go to work. It's just been like really hectic. Like all my life has been like all my schedule has been complicated and everything. And in 2024, I just found a healer, and I was having that hope that she was a very high level healer, and I knew what she's capable of. But for some reason, I was still in the, I guess, victimhood consciousness, and I was still hoping she would fix everything for me. So I started a process with her to be supported, right? Because I was seriously crumbling and collapsing. And eventually, throughout this process, I understood that it's not about what someone else can do for me, it's about what I can do for myself and how I can hold my family. So that has been like the origin story, because in 2024, when I met that healer, I also discovered the online business world, which I was literally not aware of. Like I was not aware that people are making millions online and they have half my education. Like I was not realizing that. And then I thought, wow, that's an interesting possibility. And also, I love the idea of freedom, like freedom of time, freedom of like who you choose to interact with, freedom of how you do things, freedom of being like a new earth advocate, new system advocate. So I started this journey of business at the same time. And I truly believe that if it was none of my daughter, I don't think I would have a business today because I was comfortable in my previous life. So she really brought like this level of discomfort and pain. I don't want to say it's because of her, but like her presence had me realize that, okay, like the life I'm having right now is no longer a fit with her, with her, because I want her to be included. I want her to have opportunities. Like I want her to be able to live a life that is fulfilling, right? So she really opened my eyes in terms of like major shifts, like shifting paradigms, but it starts with you. Like, what are you willing to shift in your own life in order to be able to shift paradigm for an entire society, right?
That's it right there, isn't it? Like, there's so much in what you've just shared there that I want to dive into. But, I do believe that our children are oftentimes our biggest catalyst for awakening. And so, when you say it's happened because of, it's like, and that's awesome. That's an amazing thing. Like, despite all the challenges, what a gift in the grander scheme of things, because I personally believe these children have come here to disrupt and break down all of these systems, and look what happens straight away. And it's so interesting to me. I'd love to hone in on this just for a second. Is like, because you say you're here for the 1%, because most people, I think we're allowed to say this, given your set of circumstances, would crumble, would stay in that victim, would just be like, oh my gosh, this is so hard, like what, and just totally freak out. And you've actually let it do the complete opposite, which is it's actually like you've allowed what spirit, I guess, is trying to do for you, to guide you into, like, not only could this, can I step into a more empowered space with her as a mother, but I could actually use this as a model to think, what else needs to be broken out of the box, and how can I actually live outside of these systems and completely break down the norm and find that freedom. Like, this is amazing. Have you always known that you were one of these people that thought differently, and like when big stuff happens, you let it activate you? Or like, can you go back to that moment? Was there a moment where you were like, I've got a choice here? I think I had a few moments like that where I realized I actually have a choice here to crumble, or I could choose another way. And I don't even know what that way is, but I'm going to go that way.
Yes, and thank you for this question because I feel that all those moments are the ones, like they are the junction where we could choose to continue in the same path or choose to leap, because they really are an opportunity to shift and change everything, but usually they come with major changes, and these changes can be scary, right? Like, because it entails that we're gonna drop a lot of things. So one of the other moment was like I was living in Montreal before, and I was born there, so I was there for 35 years. And one of my dream was to live closer to nature. And where I live in Quebec, Canada, like we have a lot of opportunities to live literally within the nature. Like there are still a lot of forest and spaces that are absolutely magnificent. But I was thinking probably when I'm retiring, probably when I'm retiring, because when would I have this opportunity to literally leave behind my entire social network, my family, everything I've built, like my career, my professional reputation, like everything I've put efforts within, like for the past 35 years, I would have to drop and start anew somewhere else, like that is several hours away from that town. Because Montreal is beautiful, but it's not like it's not nature, it's a city, it's a town. So when I had my maternity leave, and this was before I knew my daughter would have huge challenges in terms of inclusion, I decided that it was my time to move because I was on maternity leave. So I had that mental space to literally like find another job, find a place to stay, and go there. And I moved to a place I had never visited before. So it was based on total faith. Like I heard of that place, but I never went there before. So that was also interesting because a lot of people tried to disrupt that choice, and they were like, why would you go live there when you don't even know what this is all about? Like, why would you choose that place? And I said, well, I was called there because I could have a job by snapping my fingers, because they were looking for people with my profession over there. They have a lack of those people. So that was like an open door for me, and this would literally remove all the financial stress. Like I would arrive there day one, I have a job. And not only that, but afterwards I realized, and that was interesting, like on my income tax that year, I could even cover my move, which was very expensive because I moved for a job. So I had so many opportunities that just manifested because I was convinced of that choice. I knew it was like now or in maybe 30 years, you know? And that choice made me leap because when I came here, I could no longer depend on everything I've built in the past. So I had to rebuild everything, and I think this is one of the reasons why I became so resilient, because I had to open doors and I had to shift systems in order for me to, to include my daughter, because I couldn't just call my mother and be like, can you babysit her until maybe someday we find a place for her? Like, my mother wasn't here, so I really had to open doors for my daughter. And that way I became an advocate, like for myself, for my daughter, but for really for all children and for the future of humanity, because the government and the systems won't change if nobody is trying to speak or to advocate for those needs that are different.
Amazing. Oh my gosh. And this is like just a perfect example of how manifestation actually works, right? And a lot of people do all the courses and read all the books and do all the magical energy work, and then actually they fail at that little 1% moment, which is the courage to actually make a move, right? Because it's the movement in the physical world and in the 3D that sends it, I reckon, a vibration into the field, and life's like, oh, she wants to go here and do this, right? So now all the support comes in, but we often sit back, don't we? And we wait for all the signs and the support, going like, can't do it until that all makes sense. But it's always the complete opposite, isn't it? And it doesn't get any easier, I find, over time. But reading 10x is easier than 2x at the moment, and that's basically what you've done there, is the 10x move, right? Which requires you to let go of 80% of what you already know, which is, that's a lot. That's a lot. So I want to celebrate you and your courage. And as you're speaking, I just got like the full truth bumps were just coming down, like, as if I'm in a deep, deep energy healing session. And so it really feels like your daughter is a magical gift for the world. And yeah, I wonder what, there's just so much more that wants to be unraveled there. As you're speaking, I am remembering, and I must find the name of it because I can't remember off the top of my head. But I read one of the most incredible books that I've ever read. I think I cried so many times all the way through it, but it was so inspiring. And this was before my spiritual awakening. And it was a mother with a similar child, like very severely autistic, like totally nonverbal. But she was so tapped in, this mother. She was really observing what this child was actually doing when they were not speaking. And the way that he was observing the world, she noticed, was very different to how the other children were. And then she noticed that he was actually like working with light, and she noticed that he was actually working with maths and the way that he was organizing things. And then and she, like you, could not find anywhere to support her. It was really, it was a really quite brutal on that, the social setup and the systems that just weren't there. So she had to pave a new way. So she actually started like a homeschool kind of setup, and and it turned into a whole program for children like hers. And she had the most incredible results. And it was really, what she was doing was being responsive to what she was observing and making choices from that, which I just found so exciting, because we can expand children so much in that space. Like in New Zealand, we have a thing called Play Centre. I don't think it's anywhere else in the world, where the parents go, and it's operated like a daycare, but each parent goes with their children. And you get lots and lots of amazing training, and the whole system is based on observing and being responsive and letting the child lead. And the things that children will do and are capable of, all children, when you let them lead and you sit back and you don't try and like direct the learning or make them come and do your activity that's your idea because you think it's going to teach them something, it always just blows me away. So what have you had the chance to create anything or set anything up or open any doors for yourself or for her?
The door we have opened, it's in collaboration with the daycare where she is right now. We have opened the door for the government to recognize that being autistic can also generate different needs and a different level of support. Because initially, where I live, the government was covering one-on-one support for certain diagnoses, but they were not considering the functional portrait. How is how is the child developing, and notwithstanding of the diagnosis, because really a diagnosis is just something that stems from an evaluation or an assessment, a thorough assessment. But really, what is important is like, no matter what is your diagnosis or whatnot, how are you developing and what do you need to support your development as a child? And that door that we have opened is that now my daughter, she has one-on-one support all day at daycare. So it can help her integrate like a social routine because for her, everything that is about conforming or understanding social norms is just like not something she has acquired yet. Like most of children, the and that's good and that's bad because most children they will be programmed very easily, unfortunately. So they will understand social norms very quickly. Like they learn by imitation, and this is also imitation is a prerequisite for communication. So they mimic, they will do like others. But my daughter, she does not do that. She doesn't want you to show her how to do things. She's not interested to mimic others, and she will not conform to social norms. So just like imagine just following a routine would become very complicated. Because for her, if she doesn't want to go outside at this time, she just doesn't want to go outside at this time. But now we're like with the one-on-one support, we can also show her the power of, belonging. Because that's the other side of being in a group and a social setting is that you can belong, you can make friends, you can actually like you have more choice of how you can play. So I feel that this door is important just if like the government can recognize that a child, notwithstanding of their diagnosis, they may need that one-on-one support. And even if it's like, yes, it's a cost for society, but we choose as Canadians or as Quebecers, we choose to invest in our taxes so we can get access to services, right? That's a way that we choose to hold a society. So hence, I believe that people should have access to care when they need it. So yeah, so that's one thing. And in parallel, I've created my business, and this is interesting because I'm still negotiating. Like I'm still at the early stage of my business that I created in 2024, and I'm still negotiating how is this going to help me and my family to to become free of a schedule. Because eventually, what I would love is that we can just create our own schedule and navigate the world and the time, our own way. Because I feel like I've discovered through my daughter that all my life I've pushed myself to be able to follow a schedule, but I actually prefer not to have a schedule. And that's how I do all my mentorship. I don't have appointments usually. So it's all on voice notes or text, most of it, except if I have like a group program, then we're gonna have like some sessions, but I really try to have as less appointments as possible because that's not what I prefer. And I think that's interesting that way because if she helped me creating something, it's like the way I lead my business.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I'm just having a little giggle. First of all, I do believe that these children that are coming in with these gifts, I'm going to call them, are here to activate sovereignty codes, aren't they? They're just so sovereign. They cannot and will not be told what to do. And like people have said that about me from time to time, and I've taken that, used to get offended by that, and now I'm proud of that. Now I'm proud of that because I understand my energetic signature and makeup is not to do what I'm told. Like it just never works out for me working for someone else. So now when someone offers for me to come and help them with something, I'm like, no, I'll collaborate. But I'm just not coded that way, and some of us aren't. And so it's that acceptance piece, isn't it? Of like that's the way it is. And then I love it that you can come at from another way that supports her and understanding how it can serve her as well to just because we still have to operate in the world that we're in. And I think I've got to find this book and I'll pop it in the notes and I'll send it to you later too. She did very similar, just set up these basic systems where they could negotiate just getting to places and doing certain things and then having that freedom the rest of the time. And I love it that she's helped you to remember that you don't want to be on a schedule. And you don't actually have to be. Isn't that the beauty of um, what we're creating? I wonder, have you thought about like, and you've only fairly recently discovered this online world and like what's possible? Because for me it is limitless. it's limitless what we can create, and the fact that we're not tied to trading dollars for hours, when we can create this one podcast and then we can put it out there into the world and it could touch thousands of people, and goodness knows what kind of web of creation that will be weaving for both of us, and we'll probably never know and never understand how big that is, but that really excites me. And I was speaking with someone the other day about, we're talking about the advancements of technology, right? And there's going to be a lot of jobs that are going to be, we won't need them anymore. And they were really in a lot of worry. This person was really worrying about it. What are we going to do without the jobs? And I was like, we're going to innovate. There's going to be new jobs. It's just that we haven't even seen them coming yet. But we are kind of, even the explosion of the online space, it is kind of showing us that, everybody's got gifts to offer. And there is no limit to how we can choose to share those with the world. So it's kind of just, I don't know, I just see limitless potential, full of optimism and totally excited. How do you feel about the future of, I guess it's the containers and the architecture, if you like, of how we spend our time and exchange our time and money.
I love the concept that you're bringing up, like exchanging our time and money that are both very important resources that allows us to build and create a life of our own that we enjoy and that we feel aligned with. Um, and both can feel limited. Time can feel limited, or money can feel limited for some people, but it could also feel limitless depending on where we stand and how we approach it. And I feel that with all the support of technology that is being created right now with AI, for instance, or other tools, if we can use them consciously, I feel that we are really have another report to time. Like our relationship to time is gonna become very different. Um, but I feel that the word conscious really wants to be mentioned here because also with all the technology that is available to us, we can easily get lost and fall into the numbing or confusion. Like it's really easy to like just open a portal of like curiosity, for instance, and spend hours into that and not really knowing at the end like what was it for exactly. That's
Snaps.
exactly
I used to go down a
exactly.
research rabbit hole yesterday, and 2 hours went by, and I was like, that was not on my schedule. I like you have a little bit of schedule, but I was like, I really do
Right.
need to do what needs to be done for tomorrow, also. So yeah, important.
Yeah.
Um,
And as you mentioned, like this limitlessness, I feel is what is attractive for people who discover what others or themselves are capable of with proper and conscious use of technology, because that's the online business world. It's like with this interface that we have, we are 16 hours apart and we can still speak together. Like how crazy is this?
Amazing. It's mind blowing, actually. It still blows my mind every day. And I think this is the key bit. I was having a conversation with a client the other day. She wanted to put together a dream client avatar, and I said, "Why don't you just use ChatGPT?" And she's like, "I don't want to go near AI. I've got a lot of reservations, blah, 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 blah." And I was like, "Yeah, but this is someone that I know very well, and we've been working together for years, and she's been working on herself for over 30 years. She's very, very spiritually adept. She's very, very anchored in her sovereignty." And I'm like, you will be fine with it, because you know where the edges are, and we have to go in with that. Like I always just ask, like, how am I feeling in my body at the moment, and is, what's my intention for using this today? I've really only just delved in, but like you say, the time saving factor has just absolutely exploded my mind, and I'm like, why didn't I embrace this sooner, just for the certain tasks which would have taken me, hours and hours and hours, and it's just, you know, and all the discernment. I was like, and then I read through it, and I rewrite things in my own words, and I
Of
notice
course.
that there's mistakes, because I'm not going to teach anything that AI has told me that I don't know to be true in my own self. So I think if we're anchored in all of that, we don't need to be afraid. But I was also watching something from Matthias De Stefano the other day, who was saying, like, we're going to be in, like, he's talking about the age that we're in. It's 4,000 more years of full on technology. And he said, what we should be doing is we should be teaching our kids how to use it consciously instead of them, being given these to go get out of our hair or be distracted, so that we're not, because they are the innovators, they're the next wave of creative thinking. So if we could put these two things together, the sovereignty, and have them understand like energetic boundaries and where their edges are, that would just be so exciting.
I love that we have the choice nowadays to be a creator, and it can be so simple to be a creator. And of course, we're always creators by definition, right? But we can also bring it to the practical level. And, nowadays with the platforms we have access to, even for free for some of the platforms, we can create things that were impossible almost to create if you think like 30 years ago or 20 years ago even. Like for instance, creating a video with text. This seems very simple because it's very accessible now. You can do it with Facebook, with Instagram, with Substack, like we have several platforms. But when I was young, when I was a teenager, I could this would require so much technology that was expensive. I would never have been able to do that. So it's also like being grateful for the access to technology that we have, and remembering that yes, we are creators, we manifest our reality, etc., etc., but we also can create at the practical level. And what do we want to infuse the world with? What type of concrete creations do we want to infuse the world with? And this is what is actually going to change the paradigm. And what I like with also the technology and the fact that it's all over the world, like yesterday, I was feeling a little bit sad about the way the nighttime routine went with my children. It wasn't really easy yesterday, and I was feeling sad. And at some point, I opened the Instagram, and for some reason, the algorithm, there's a guy showing up, and he's a CrossFit trainer or something like that, and he's an influencer, and he's like, having toddlers is like, having terrorists at home, and he's joking about it. Like he's really exaggerating, but it made me feel so good at the moment and he had, I think, like thousands of likes. So I didn't feel alone. I was like, okay, I'm not a failure. Like it was really tough tonight. I didn't like the way I spoke to the kids. I really reached my limit, and I was like, they didn't want to go to sleep, and I was so tired, and I reached my limit, and I was alone. My husband is working at night. I was like, oh, I don't like those moments, but I'm not alone. Like there's someone somewhere in the internet to remind me that I'm not alone, and I thought that's really special.
Yeah, it is. There's so many gifts to it, right? There's so many gifts to it. And I work in the business realm, and quite often people have got quite a lot of hesitation about stepping in. And it's like, it's all about intention, right? It's like, I just say to them, what do you want to bring to the space? If you don't like something about social media, then you can use that as your sacred responsibility to do better than the things that you're seeing that you don't align with. Like, just don't do that. Do you bring your light through? And the more that we have that kind of content, then like it's a win for everybody. But yeah, for me, it's crazy cat videos and stuff like that. Like it's actually having a bit of a laugh, just a moment to just lighten up from all the deep thinking and enjoy cats. So
Why not? But that's the thing, though. It's like there's really, it's like a menu, and we can choose consciously that yes, sometimes I'm gonna watch a crazy video. For me, it's chickens. Like there's a guy is creating video with chickens and AI, and they are
dancing
hilarious.
chickens.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but I'm
awesome.
like, yeah, right. But I'm like, this guy is a genius because he makes me laugh every time. You know?
Yes, and I think Pam Gregory said at the beginning of this year with her big astrology reading for the year, she's like, "This year gonna be crazy." She did not say it like that. She's Pam Gregory. This year's going to be crazy, and she said our biggest sacred rebellion this year was to stay in joy, and it's like, yeah, um, we got to lighten up too. I also find sometimes the spiritual community can get a little bit serious. We can get a little bit serious with like, we've got this big job to do, and it's like that sense of burden and responsibility is actually not serving anybody. It's like, how can we actually, stay in joy? So yeah, have you got any tips? What is it that brings you into that sense or that feeling of lightness within?
What is helpful for me is literally walking in nature. Yesterday, it happened to me too. Like yesterday was a difficult day for me for some reason. I think I've been very productive in the past week, and I was having a hangover of productivity or something. So yesterday I just felt like heavy. And before I went to get my kids at daycare, I went for a walk by the river, and it hit me. I just thought, this is all I need. I don't need anything else. Like, that's the remedy, that's the recipe, that's my grounding. It's like I walk in the forest by the river for a few minutes and I feel better. I feel lighter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm the same. I think it's like Gene Key's radiance key is just time alone in nature. And so, yeah, also like you, very lucky to have that right on my back doorstep to tap into. Like we can, it's just gets to be really simple, eh? Super simple. Oh, beautiful. Where are we going to go next? That's such an amazing story. I'd love to know more about, like at the beginning you were saying how you were you felt like you were communicating with your daughter really clearly psychically, and I know that where we're going as a collective, like we've got a lot of people waking up, we've got a lot of gifts amplifying right now with all of the amazing sun codes belting us and awakening us through the atomic, which is kind of felt a bit intense, but there is a lot of that in the field, and I think we're going to see that really accelerate over the next short while. And what I've noticed is that I will often just be thinking about someone and I'll get this random sort of drop in about, I don't know, something to ask them or something they might be doing. And then, like, within an hour or so, they'll contact me and say, da da da. And I'm just like, we are really starting to fine tune some stuff. Yeah. Do you want to speak into your experience of that and how that's activated your gifts, or did you already know that you were quite psychic before? And how's this feeding out into your work and the way that you serve others?
I think like many people, I was always psychic, but I was taking it for granted. So I just thought I'm a good listener and I'm a good observator because it started this way, right? So, and also I always had a depth of analysis that exceeds the norm. So I would notice details and probably interpret a little bit too, right? Or I felt like it's interpretation. And then I would reflect something to someone and they would realize what's going on. But they were not paying attention to these details. Because most people will just like, move through life and they don't really take the time, like the way we're programmed in the rat race is like we don't really take the time to actually observe what's going on. So, this meta position, some people will call it the eagle stance. When you really take the time to look at yourself or look at others, you have like this ability to communicate through other realms because one, you slow down, two, your listening deepens. And that's really the key here. Like you quiet the mind and any scenario you can make up with your mind. And rather than projecting, this is when you can actually start becoming the mirror and reflecting. So you also get feedback. So I feel that these things really amplify those gifts of communicating through other realms that are more subtle. And I saw on socials that you also work with sound. I think this is what I saw on socials, and this is how it started for me also when I was a kid. I was 5 years old, and I had this I don't know how to name that, this gift with sound. Like I was recruited to study in a music school because I was in a very modest neighborhood. They recruited me at the neighbor school, to study music like intensively. But I had never studied music before and I just nailed the audition because for me it was just there. It was just present. Like the hearing of all the sounds, like not just like the main sound that everybody hears, but like the hearing, the listening was so natural that it's like I had learned music before, but I didn't. So I don't know if it's clear, but it's like there are cues in your life that reveals to what extent like your gifts are already present. So if you're willing to not forget about it and pay attention to these details and these cues, you can make your way pretty easily into the psychic approach, like whatever, if it's mentorship or like gifts or whatever you teach. I feel that it's really a matter of not forgetting and a matter of being able to follow the trend because there's always a trend.
Love that. Love that. As you're speaking there, I'm just seeing you like being like the conductor of the orchestra, like you're able to be in it and also to be out here and to see how every single note and every single frequency actually works together. And my whole body is tingling as I'm saying that. Which is what we're here for. That is what New Earth architects are, is that we're here to harmonize and restabilize what is here, right? We don't have to do anything. We don't have to break anything down. Really, we're breaking down the systems, but it's actually much more of a yeah, it's like music. It is like music, right? Where there's no duality in music. Isn't that, doesn't it do something on your brain like that, where when you're listening to music, like every part actually works at the same time, which it doesn't do that with anything else. I love this. Yeah, and letting go of the stories, isn't it? Like I always had stories like, oh, I'm not intuitive, I'm not psychic, I'm not creative, I'm not all of the things that I do now. I can't do sound healing because I'm not a singer. Like all of these things that we just need to unravel through our human to allow what's already alive there within us. Because I believe that we all have it. It's just whether we choose to activate these gifts in this lifetime. How exciting. And so really what I love the most, and I can feel it as you're speaking, and I'm noticing, taking this on for myself, is the slowing down, because on the opposite I tend to go like a bazillion miles an hour. No, I can't even keep up with myself. Because that's where that receiving really happens. And I can feel this with you, and I'm thinking of a couple of other people I know where in their presence I have the most amazing aha moments, and they don't need to say that much, they don't need to do that much, because they are such incredible mirrors, is I think the word that you used, which I love that. How is that expressing in your work? Tell us a bit more about your work and who and how you're helping at the moment. Or is it like a
Okay.
wild mix of all sorts of different people? What are you?
Yeah. So at the moment, I work mainly in one-on-one with, I would say, like mostly spiritual mentors or mentors who have established psychic abilities. And I work through telepathic mentorship, so that's why I said I do not have appointments. So I work with people who are willing to understand that we are going to have this exchange with voice notes and text to concretize and put it into the practical realm. But we are also willing to be aware and available to whatever is present in the field and code it together and amplify it together. So, like, we work, like, some people like to call it like multiverse, but like, we work at different levels together. And these people, of course, hold the belief that this is possible. Like, we can compound the work we do in different realms all at once. And it's interesting because the point is always to see an evolution into the practical realm, like this planet Earth, right? And for me, this is really important. Like, I've been told lately that my approach is very practical, and it's true because yes, it's fun to navigate the realms and to travel throughout dimensions and everything, but at the end, like, the life we're living right now is this one. So at the end, that would be interesting also to actually make a difference here on planet Earth while we're here. So that's been very interesting. I see people also feeling confident into the path they're walking, even though for them, like, they're having bigger endeavors and there's a big phase while they're walking in the dark. Like, let's say you're writing a book, for instance. Like, let's say you're creating a book proposal. Like, this takes time. And during that period of time, life is lifing and all sorts of things are happening, and being held through that process, even when you don't see the final result yet, just like being seen and held and being reflected with whatever is happening in the field and in your life, felt very helpful for instance, for one of my clients, because like we would normalize whatever wobbliness is happening or whatever emotion is coming up or like whatever cyclicity, like because sometimes you have more to give and sometimes you have less to give, right? And I was really interesting, like this is just one concrete example of like how you can be held in a project where you have a phase of, I don't want to call it a void, but like a phase where you literally walk in the dark because either it's the first time you're doing it or either it's like a process that is very that is like an initiation, and the fact that you're held by a grounding presence who like that's able to receive what you're saying, texting or voicing, but also able to receive whatever is available in the field to mirror it back to you so you can keep going and keep being confident in that process of walking in the dark. I don't know if it's clear, but
Oh no, it is because I actually hired somebody, maybe she's a little bit like you, but with their own unique skill set this year, and it's been really, as opposed to having a coach where and I think this is a collective piece as well as where we're going is that we've been doing a lot of the trench work. We've been doing a lot of the excavation, all our trauma and all our stuff. And then you get to a space where you actually don't need to be searching for more problems all of the time. You actually are coming into this massive space of expansion, and still we all need to be held. We need that mentor, and I've hired someone like that this year, and it's more like she calls it a mentorship, and I love it. And sometimes I'll bring the thing forward, but it's just we just find that thread. She taps it into, yeah, at a cosmic level and universal, and I just always feel like, what's the word? Yeah, I can just relax in the knowing that there's such a bigger piece to play. And then I can just go off and anchor in how I need to do it myself. Like, I do my own embodiment work being a coach myself. I know how to hold myself through the what happens afterwards. But yeah, I found that so refreshing. It feels light. It feels very 5D consciousness, I want to say. Like we're really operating on a whole nother level of frequency where it just massive things shift just like that, and you don't need to go cry about it for 3 months or anything else. And I'm just like, wow, like is this where we're going? Does it get to be this I guess I don't want to say yeah, easy. I'm going to say it. It's allowed to be easy. It's allowed to be light. And that must feel really, I imagine that that's a really juicy place to serve in for you too.
yes, I love this because I've been asked by people like, "Are you a coach or what are you exactly?" And I told them I'm not a coach. I'm really a holder of truth. What I do is I hold truth. So whenever I feel that you're going into the mind speech or like whenever I feel that you picked something but it wasn't yours,
Mm.
or whenever I feel that you're trying to push into something or figure out the things, because again, we're walking in the dark, because whenever you're in an expansion phase, you're stepping into the unknown, right? You're stepping into the mystery and how the mystery can bring you anything that you would never expect because there are so many possibilities we cannot see all of them. So I have I have another client. She told me lately, once I own my desire, because she was kind of tiptoeing around the desire. She was like, "Oh, maybe this could be something that would be possible
One
someday." I'm like, "No, no, no, no,
day.
no, no, no. Like, what do you want now? Like, own your desires. Like, what is your real desire? Like, don't be shy about your desire." And sometimes there's this thing around healers because I work with healers as well. They have, this humbleness or this sense of righteousness where the it's almost like something that they don't deserve, but they feel shy about owning certain desire. And sometimes I go with like modeling this for them. Like I'm gonna be on the cover of a magazine in 2026, and I told one of my clients, you know what? It's vanity, like it's pure vanity. I just want, honestly, like I just wanted my face on a cover. Like it's a dream of mine, it's a desire of mine. I don't need a reason. It's pure vanity, and I own it. And this gave permission. Like you want the stage, take it. Like you don't need to justify like is it exactly the stage that I wanted, and am I going to be allowed to say exactly what I want to speak about? Like forget about all those details, desire to be on a stage.
Yes, yes. I love that. It's like that fire energy that, yeah, we can often. lose a bit maybe through our up and down, spiral of ascension. You'll have these like, yeah, it can really grow you, and it can also collapse you a little bit too. Like I do see quite a lot of collapse in it, and I think we're coming out of that state of collapse as we build this new architecture, and part of that is now bringing a little bit of the things that we might have pushed away in our healing, like being too pushy or forceful, or having like a negative connotation of masculine energy. And there's a real healing happening now as we start to realize that actually masculine energy can be wounded and can be light. And so let's just not label all masculine energy as the wounded masculine. And one of my mantras I've been working with this year is like, I get what I want when I want it, because that's kind of how a lot of the big, beautiful, strong, successful men in the world operate. They just expect that they'll do the thing and they'll get the result. And there's like so little emotion, whereas we can get so tangled up about what does it mean if I want that? And it's like, yeah, just peel all that away, claim it, own it, and be available to receive it. I freaking love that. I love that you did that. That's so exciting. Can't wait to see you on the magazine cover. This is so cool.
It's like, oh, it seems like the only message I have for the collective right now is to allow yourself to do things the way that feels right now. And this is such a simple message, but like we all hire mentors for strategy, for expansion, for scaling, for development, especially in the online business world. But always come back to your own self, own sacred self, and what they want right now. Like you need a day of rest, you have a deadline in 2 days. Trust that your day of rest will bring you enough energy and inspiration to continue the day after. You
Yes.
know? So simple, but I feel that with this amount of possibilities we're exposed to nowadays, sometimes we go back into the pushing because we see it's possible, and there's this, this addiction to achievement. It's like I can, so I do it because I can, and that's absolutely fine because it's true. You can do it because you can, and that's perfect. But also just remember to be connected to your human body as well, so you stay in that flow. Like this piece of flow and ease comes with the idea of, even if it's not attuned with the strategies you learned, it can still work for you in a different way.
Yeah. Feel like you're speaking to me directly. That's going to be really helpful for lots of people. But that's been my absolute journey through life, is unhooking from all of that pushing, improving, and rushing, and or latching on to other people's strategies is the way that it has to be done, when it's like just that constant step back into, and yeah, what's my energy and what is my body, most importantly, calling me to do today. I love that. Thank you so much, you beautiful, wise woman. And in the presence that you hold, I can feel that you are not a person that pushes. I can feel that you're not a person that rushes. I can feel all of these things. Is there anything you want to add on to that? How you're walking your talk? You're breaking down the systems. You're opening the doors. You're operating outside of the timetable. That's my favorite, I think.
The only thing I would add is the piece of trust, and another, like, again, it's very simple and everybody heard that before, right? So I'm not bringing anything new here, but the piece of trust is really central to your success. And it's like whenever you start doubting because you're slowing down, or whenever you start trash talking your business or yourself because it's not going in the direction you expected, then you're not trusting. So this idea of trusting the way you move in the world, and trusting the beauty of it, and trusting your own creativity, your own creative power.
Yes, thank you for speaking into that. I feel that's one of the deepest wounds, is that the school system teaches us that we're not creative unless we are making fine art. And so people are disconnected from that inner knowing that we come in with, that we are the creators of our world and we get to create whatever we want at any point. So yeah, that's crucial. Thank you so much. I think that's the great place to finish, and super empowering for everyone that's listening. Audree, it's been such an amazing chat. I could speak to you for hours and hours, and I hope that you will come back and we will delve more into some of the things that we just scratched the surface on today. Thank you so much, you beautiful soul. And I'm really excited to share this with the world.
Really happy that you invited me here. I feel honored to open this podcast with you. And I really love the origin story of this podcast when you said like it was brewing for 2 years and then you went back into Canva and found the actual graphic. And it was just the answer that was so clear. And the piece of trust is all about that.
Yeah, yes, that's it. Everything that you've brought through, and then that's something that I've adopted in my life. I get the inspiration and I move on it immediately. I don't second guess, because once we do that, we've gone into a place that can be hard to get out of. So incredible. Thank you so much. Amazing. All right.
Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you for being here and for sharing this space with us today. If something in this episode stirred, opened, or resonated within you, I invite you to follow the podcast and share it with your soul family. Please send us some love and give us a 5-star review if you loved it today. Your listens, shares, and reviews help this work ripple outward where it's meant to land. For deeper connection, you can visit debbielimcreative.com or find me on Instagram at debbielimcreative. And I'd really love to hear what moved or awakened for you in this conversation today. One final reminder, you're not here to fit into the old world. You're here to birth a new one through your body, your creativity, and your frequency.